And if there's a free exchange of information and the people are allowed an opportunity to think and to judge for themselves, you don't find communism in any country.
Better to drag the sinister and inequitable doctrine from its dank cellars and expose to the light of truth, and by comparison, let it perish.
I do not believe that any member of this legislature questions our loyalty to our government or believes that any of us are inclined to favor communism or any activity that would be directed towards the overthrow of our government. And if this is true, then I can see no necessity for the adoption of Senate Bill number 227.
The fundamental purpose, of course, of the professor is to teach the students. And you have to have latitude to teach. Ideas, you cannot imprison them. They must be discussed on a very broad basis. Now, as I say, so far as the professors are concerned, this bill will have a most serious effect upon their morale.
One is communism is insidiously evil. It has no respect for morality or integrity. No system more diametrically opposed to our form of government or our way of life could possibly be conceived by the human mind. Secondly, communism is an indispensable phase of the liberal movement.
Knowledge is the cure for communism. The American system of government, the free enterprise system, has nothing to fear from comparison openly and directly with communism. As for the appearance of communists or other persons of strange ideologies on our campus, I do not fear that they will win over the alert youth of Alabama.
The Constitution, therefore, seems to be crystal clear. No law can be passed restraining any form of speech insofar as free speech is concerned at any place. You may, however, pass laws, and you have passed laws, to punish people for advocating the violent overthrow of the government. Therefore, publicly disavowing any support of communism or its tenets, I urge that this bill not be adopted, since, in my opinion, it violates Section 4 of the Constitution.
If we will ever defeat the liberal movement, we must wage a frontal assault upon communism in this country. Thirdly, communism is at this hour dedicated to our destruction. To say that a communist should be allowed on a college campus and speak to our youth is tantamount to saying that if you are a communist in Vietnam, you are our enemy. But if you can ever get to this country, you not only are not our enemy anymore, but we will offer you the privilege of going to college campus and trying to persuade the students there to become communists. I say, ladies and gentlemen, that all the sophistry, all the sophistication, all the superficialities in the world cannot hide the fact that this is crazy.
And now, gentlemen, you stop and think just where we are. Let's not act like children. Let's go on and meet our 3 days. We voted that. We voted increase in pay. And we agreed in that special session to come along and meet 3 days a week minimum. And I want to urge you to reconsider this, and let's not be carried away too fast with some of this voting we're doing.
I know every other senator in this House is working. Senator Cooper for 3 or 4 days a week. And I don't know whether it's with tongue-in-cheek that you commend the House for what they've done. I'm sure they're glad to hear that from you. But I'd like to say to the House that I believe this is a two-house legislature, and I think that we have not treated the House fairly in the way that we have attempted to ramrod what some people want through and stop everything else. It seems to me that our issue is not for us to stay here and vote, but for us just to stay here to run out the days. And most of us are going to be here tomorrow, Senator Adams, with your Temperance Committee and other important committees and other important bills. But I am confident that the time has come here that we don't just pass what the administration wants or somebody else wants, but that we be the deliberative body that we were elected to be. I know I was. And I thank the press for their remarks Sunday that a group of us are not dictated to by anybody, and that I was one of those listed.
Mind will always seek what is new and what is different. This inquisitive mind will read and examine and compare and will reject on the basis of fact. It seems preferable to have open, frank, supervised discussions or forums. In this manner, we can assure the fair and factual presentation of thoughts and deeds.
The legislation is not needed for the purposes that have been applied. Therefore, we must assume that it is only a first step to legislative control of academic programs. It would be logical to expect that soon political leaders, ministers, outstanding educators, or others would possibly be barred if their views did not conform.
Is our democratic system so wanting in substance that we are unwilling to place it in comparison to that of Marxism from the podium? I have an unalterable faith in the people of America and to their ultimate judgment.
They are indefatigable in their efforts. It would not seem to require a great deal of perspicacity to see that we should oppose it. Yet, incredibly, there are those, in spite of material or academic achievements, who simply, in their own way, think that we should tolerate and allow this trend to continue.
But gentlemen, there have been some communists speaking on campuses in Alabama. And I'm going to refer to the Communist Daily Worker, 2 separate editions of it, which tell of 3 different avowed communists having spoken on a campus in the state of Alabama, Tuskegee Institute. Now, I realize fully Tuskegee Institute is not a state-owned and operated school, but for many years it has enjoyed very substantial appropriations out of the funds of the state of Alabama.
Now, I want to commend the House on the action that they took today in going along with the Senate and said we're willing to save that $50,500 that the Alert Press told everybody throughout the state that the predictions, I believe, was 100 to 1, and some got down to 10 to 1, that the House would be rebellious, and they'd said, no, we're going to throw that back. We're going to all take pay. Well, I want to commend the House for that. I think they did a good job. I think it showed that they want to stay up here and work, and they don't want 11-day paid vacation.
I just represent 3 counties, 100,000 people. And when I'm not here, I'm usually in one end of that district trying to tell them what I'm trying to do or find out what my people want. And not that somebody tells me how to do or somebody tells me how to vote. And all I would say to the other 34 of you is that you vote the way you think you ought to vote for your people. You vote the way you think you can best get in a committee and study and learn and try to do what's right, rather than come out here voting on bills that you haven't even read. But somebody else tells you that's the way they want you to vote, whoever they are.
Well, the legislature has already spent most of its time, over half of its time practically, to date, and I think it's very slim they'll adopt the package in its entirety. There's a good possibility that some of the major recommendations might be adopted.
What recommendations would you feel are most prominent to be adopted now?
Well, the legislature would have an opportunity by amending the general appropriation bill to revalue property in the state by giving the Revenue Department more money to make valuations. Another thing that could be done is that the statewide assessment of automobiles might be done by using uniform evaluations, and then the legislature could abolish one of the acts which at present allows tax assessors to recopy the rolls every year.
Do you think that the recommendations your committee's come up with are fair to all concerned?
Well, it was a studied attempt made by all the members of the committee to try to be fair to all elements of Alabama, industry, residential property owners, and farmers alike.
Chief, do you have any idea what the probable cause of yesterday's fire was?
No, sir, we don't, Chuck. We haven't gotten down to the dollars and cents portion of that thing. We know, as you know, from the physical evidence there, we got extensive damage to about 6 buildings there, and it's going to run into a lot of money.
Is there any way to estimate the cost to the city in like wages of firemen, use of water, equipment, depreciation, things like that?
Well, it'd take quite some time to figure all that up as to the man hour and salaries and wear and tear and prorated cost of the equipment used, hose, nozzles, pumping engines, ladder apparatus, and helmets, stuff like that, you know.
Would you care to make a guess?
I don't believe so, no, sir. After I have time to think on it and maybe figure a little bit, I might be so far off I'd be ashamed of any estimate that I might make.
When was the last time these buildings that burned were inspected?
I'd have to check back with the Bureau of Fire Prevention to get their records. They have all of this information available. We inspect the downtown business #1 fire zone areas at least 4 times a year. That's from the Bureau. Then the company officers come in the spring and in the fall, and the company officers make an inspection of these buildings, which is not counted in the 4 times a year that the Bureau inspects them, and they check it on the entrances and exits and good housekeeping and anything that might be of assistance to us or anything that might be a hindrance to us in the event we have a fire in this building.
The fire started in Carl's and spread to other buildings.
At the present time, we think, and it's pretty well established, that the fire started in the back portion of Carl's shoe store.
Is there anything unusual about the way it spread to?
No, sir, we don't think so at this time. We do know that there was some delay in the time that the alarm was turned in, and it had this much pre-burn time. And then building or any fire like that, a matter of 3 to 5 minutes, they are very important. And these 3 to 5 minutes can be crucial moments. And we know from the way the building was involved, when the first apparatus arrived, alarm came in at 3:06 a.m. and they were around then, I'd say, I don't know the exact time, I've not checked it yet, from about 45 seconds to a minute. And what we saw indicated that the building was well underway in being involved.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are grateful to Thee for the knowledge that Thou art concerned about us, and everything that concerns our lives is a great concern of Thy heart of love. And so we come in confidence today to pray for our governor. Our Father, we pray that Thou wilt watch over her this day, that Thou wilt be with the doctors as they minister to her. We pray that they may have wisdom and skill, that everything may be done that needs to be done for her welfare, that she may be completely restored to her health and to her family and to her responsibilities in this state. We ask that Jesus Christ, the great physician, may put his hand over the hand of the surgeon in the operation, that he may bring the healing powers of his Spirit to bear upon her body, that she may be completely restored to her health and strength.
I call on our new Attorney General by way of a letter and a speech on the floor to do something about the riots. And what is he doing about our professional agitators and instigators of riots? Mr. Stokely Carmichael by name, for one, where every place he goes a riot ensues, where he goes to a quiet, peaceful, tranquil town such as Prattville, Alabama, and says in advance that I'll tear this town down, and proceeds to set about doing just that very thing. So we asked Mr. Ramsey Clark, our new Attorney General, why don't you do something about this? This is anarchy, if not treason. Mr. Clark says, I don't have the proper law. I don't have the tools to prevent this. There's no statute on the federal books that will prevent a person from going from place to place, instigating riots.
Problem you have, does it seem to be the prime problem of the party today?
Well, I think we have three problems. Or we have all one problem. We've lost an election. We lost it rather badly, according to the votes count. This means that your average Republican is discouraged. The average citizen thinks we're losers. But this is our real political problem, and it means it's hard to raise money and it's hard to get candidates. However, the facts are that in 5 years we've made a tremendous political advance for a brand new party. We are with the people on every possible issue, from Vietnam down to local taxes and honesty in government. And as soon as the people realize that and we get articulate candidates who will go to the people and express these issues and we fund this going to the people, then we'll be successful again, in my judgment.
Mr. Martin, what appears to be the primary objectives of the Republican Party today?
Well, the primary objective is to defeat Lyndon Johnson. And the primary objective of Southern conservative Republicans is to nominate a man in the convention that not only can defeat Johnson, but would be acceptable to Southern. We don't want to jump from the frying pan into the fire. We don't want a Republican that we can't deal with, one that we know will return to the states the rights to manage their own affairs and throw these guidelines out the windows and let us in the South relax and live a life within constitutional government. So we have two prime objectives: to defeat Johnson and to nominate a conservative on the Republican ticket to do that job.
The state chairman, Alfred Goldthwait, said one of the primary objectives would include getting the 3 Republican congressmen reelected. Will you make this 4?
I don't know that I'll run for Congress. I have been asked about it, and I'm honored that many people in my district would like to see me return. Their thinking is that if we defeat Johnson, it'll either be with former Governor Wallace or else a Republican. If Governor Wallace is elected, he's going to need Southerners, both in the House and the Senate, to deal with the affairs. If he doesn't succeed and a Republican defeats Johnson, then goodness knows we've got to have some Alabamians in both the House and in the United States Senate that can deal with a new Republican president. It's a must. We in the South can no longer afford to remain powerless.
Mr. Little, what is the financial status of the Alabama Republican Party?
Our situation is simply that we owe some $33,000 plus we have some $12,000 in future payments due on equipment which the state committee owns. We propose to pay off this debt just as rapidly as we can, and we adopted today a budget of $18,800 to operate from now until the end of this year. This finance committee feels like the best possible method of raising money would go to some 100,000 people or so and get $1 apiece from them, and then you'd simply solve all of our problems, and we'd be in good shape for the election next year. Actually, it's a little hard to get people to do that much contacting, and our program is simply we call a cooperative effort, where we cooperate with the county and try to get the county and the state to work together, see the people, and raise the money.
Mr. Martin, how will the Alabama Republican Party fare at the upcoming national convention?
I think we could say how will the South fare, because I believe Southerners will work in a unified, powerful group. They have 26% of the vote. They're going to be against Romney, Javits, or Rockefeller. They'll be for the most conservative candidate we can get. With Reagan coming up in the West, if the star continues to rise, I can see the South as perhaps swinging to him if Nixon loses out and doesn't have a chance of winning. I think the South will name the next nominee on the Republican ticket and thereby securing for the South a position of great political power. And that man might just be Ronald Reagan of California.
How do you feel Mr. Kirk from Florida will fare?
Well, I think he'd be one of those that they'll unify behind as a favorite son, but I don't think he will be in the position of being a nominee for the presidency of the United States. But I do see a Ronald Reagan rising rapidly in the eyes of the people, not only in our part of the state, but throughout the rest of the country. He's tremendously popular in the West.
That I got tired of hearing some of the wet counties say that they should have all the revenue. That shouldn't be true at all. The reason is that people all over the state go into wet counties and buy alcoholic beverages and take them into dry counties. It's a violation of the law, but we all know that such is the case. Day before yesterday, I believe, a truck was picked up in Hodges, Alabama. It was a U-Haul truck driven by a man from Birmingham, whose name I will not call, with 500 cases of beer, 9 cases of whiskey. Franklin County is a dry county. It's now at the Franklin County Courthouse, as I understand, in Russellville. I merely mentioned that to show that it is a statewide matter that, rather than a matter of raising revenue for 24 counties. And if 24 wet counties want to insist that they get all the revenue from it, I'm for doing away with the whole shooting match.
And if we can
reduce this idea of home rule.
The fact that we have this problem, we can't control people, and what else are we going to do? We're going to have it more out of control. I ask you to seriously consider, and I'm going to sit down and shut up when I finish this. The person involved in the rise of these percentages could very well likely be your very own daughter in these 315% increase in the rape cases, or your own granddaughter. Gentlemen and ladies, if you please, your own flesh and blood.
We are simply allowing, under this bill, the citizens of a city of over 4,500 to vote on the question of whether they want legal sales of alcoholic beverages, supervision and control, or whether they're going to continue under the bootleg system of corruption and payoffs.
The support of these bills is in favor of the right of the municipal citizen to make the determination. We do not come out and say that we advocate that a city should be wet or dry. We do say this: we think that the people of a city or town, a city of 4,500 population or more, the people therein should have the right to make the determination.
To the municipality, why not to the precinct? And to push it on to the ridiculous, why not to the block? Gentlemen, law enforcement problems are difficult enough already in both wet and dry counties. This will simply aggravate and complicate the problem further.
Gentlemen, more whiskey, wherever it is or however it comes, is not going to solve our problems. When people pour millions of their dollars into an evil product to get thousands of dollars back in revenue, that's poor business. And the grocerman, the shoe man, the clothing merchant tell me, Pastor, if you get liquor, the money is going to go into liquor, not for shoes, not for clothes, not for groceries. It's the same money coming out of the same pockets. It's a question is, where do you want it to go? Now, I'll tell you for sure, when your people drink more whiskey, you have more problems. And to hitch our financial wagon to the star of alcohol and continually come and say every program's going down the drain if we don't get this liquor revenue, you could open that Pandora's box to every drug, every evil, and everything else. We've got to quit hitching our wagon to the liquor star to get our revenue. It's the same money coming out of the same pocket.